What's up, everybody? This is Chandler Rome, joined again with Tyler Stafford for another episode of Crush City Territory. And if you can't tell, I am back in Houston at my undisclosed location. I got on a plane from West Palm Beach to Houston yesterday. When I had boarded the plane, Cam Smith had hit 1 home run. When I landed, he had hit 2, and everyone is reacting very rationally, Tyler. Certainly not taking this for what it is and just 2 home runs in an exhibition game in February.
Yeah, all I'm hearing is you may not get to attend any Astros games this year because Cam Smith just rakes when you're not watching. So you may be the problem. And so Twitter may just turn against you even more so than usual.
I was about to say Twitter turned against me a very, very long time ago, as evidenced by some of the responses we received for this episode. So this is a new kind of format for us. We're doing a mailbag today because, quite frankly, I didn't have really anything else to talk about from spring training. It's pretty monotonous, and I'm not going to sit here and break down 2 Cam Smith home runs in an exhibition game for 35 minutes.
Did you see Altuve's glove that Julia posted?
I did. It's Marwin's. It's got Marwin's name on it.
But the best part was the quote saying he said he gave his infield glove to a kid. So he's an outfielder now.
I mean, they're probably the same size hand, so
probably
that helps. But yeah, I mean, we've been saying it all along. This is not some thing they're trying in spring training just for the hell of it. Like this is going to happen. This is real. And then there is, we do have one piece of news to share that Jose Altuve will play on Friday against the Cardinals. He'll make his Grapefruit League debut then, and it will be in the outfield. So he's going to start in left field. Look, I would say barring him completely making a fool of himself in Grapefruit League games, which I do not think is going to happen, this is going to be a thing that we see the whole season. I'm not ready to say yet he's going to be the primary left fielder, but everything is trending that way. And we're going to see really once he gets into Grapefruit League games how he handles this.
This is fun. You know what it also does is the first week of the season, you're all in because it's the first week back. And then if we're being honest, it's a bit of a slog for, a bit while the standings start to work themselves out. It's not the end of the season where you're really paying attention to how far back. Jose Altuve playing left field is the perfect reason to watch a Tuesday night game 30 games into the season. I can't wait. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, when I don't think they go to Detroit early in the season, when they go to Detroit, when they go to Texas, when they go to these places with massive outfields, it'll be something to watch. But they play their first 6 games at home, where he is much more conditioned to play at Daikin Park in left field than any other ballpark in baseball. But yeah, that'll be a reason to watch some of these night games, some of these games on the West Coast, just to watch Jose Altuve run around in left field and to see how he fares and how he responds to that. But you'll get your first chance on Friday. I will not be there, unfortunately. I will be elsewhere. I will be celebrating Carnival in New Orleans, Louisiana. If I make it back from New Orleans and Mardi Gras, I will be back in spring training March 9th, I believe I'm flying back. So be back in Houston for the next week and a half. I'm going to kind of follow stuff from afar, have some stuff pocketed that hopefully you guys will like. But for now, we want to make this about you guys, the listeners, the people that have helped us really, really explode and really make this fun for the first month. Tyler, we've been doing this for almost 2 months now. Can you believe it?
That's crazy. I've never spoken to you before this. So, this is nuts.
I know. I wonder if people can tell how much I hate you yet.
Yeah. Well, I'm actually behind all those burners in your replies. It's just 30 accounts that I pay for and just drag you in every reply.
I can't believe you pay for Twitter. What a weird existence. So if you please rate and review this. Please subscribe on YouTube because we do rely on you guys, and a lot of you guys sent in a ton of questions for this mailbag episode. So the way this is going to work is because we're on YouTube and there's people that can't watch on YouTube, we'll read the questions out loud, and then we'll kind of both give our insights. But if you're watching on YouTube, we will bring them up so you can read them yourself. So this is a little bit of a process. So let me get the first one up. Let me get the first question up that we want to talk about. And
what did you want to be when you grew up, Chandler?
What did I want to be when I grew up?
Real little kid.
I I didn't really have any of those weird dreams. Like both my parents are in medicine, so I kind of just figured I would do the family business and go into medicine. Then I realized science is not fun. Math not fun either. Math's not fun either. I'm not good at it, and that's why I'm writing now.
I remember as a kid going to the grocery store and pretending that I was a mailman. So I would like jump off the side of the cart and I would go like put something up on the aisle. And so anyway, now that we're doing a mailbag episode, I feel like I'm fulfilling a childhood dream.
I'm glad I could be here to witness
Uh-huh.
an encapsulation of your lifetime goal. That it's really inspiring and uplifting.
Mhm.
So first question from Michael Smith on X, Twitter, whatever Elon's calling it now. He asks, I thought there was no chance Cam Smith would be up this year. But after some of Dana's comments, do you think there's a chance he debuts this year? This is obviously one that's going to get a lot of run because of what Cam Smith just did. Hit 2 homers in spring training game against I believe, who are they playing? Were they playing the Marlins? Yeah,
The Mets.
The Mets. No, not of course not the Mets.
Friend of the pod, Austin Warren, was pitching, I believe.
Never heard of him.
A Twitter friend is his sister, and I've known Keely forever. And so that's her brother, and so that's how he's friend of the pod. I've decided.
Well, Keely, I didn't mean to insult your brother. I'm sure he's a very nice man who's going to make a very long living as a relief pitcher. But so back to Michael's question: Will Cam Smith debut this year? Let's deal in some facts right now. Cam Smith has taken 134 plate appearances as a professional baseball player. He has taken 20 of those above high A. He can hit all the homers in spring training that you want. He can light up Grapefruit League play. We've seen a ton of guys do it. Justin Dearden did it once. Joey Loperfido did it last year. Nick Tanalou was a big Grapefruit League standout. Look, Cam Smith's a better player than all those guys, but he needs time. This is not a situation where there would have to be some pretty catastrophic things happen in front of him for Cam Smith to make the opening day roster. But to Michael's point, like Dana Brown's not afraid to push dudes. Like you saw it with Jake Bloss last year. Jake Bloss skipped AA, basically came up, made a couple starts in the Astros rotation. Zach DeZenzo barely played in AAA before he got called up. Dana is a fan of moving guys quickly. So no, if Cam Smith goes to the minor leagues this year and rakes and sees upper level pitching at AA and AAA and does what the Astros think he can do, yeah, he can debut this year. Tyler, but I think, also, and I want to get your take on this before I expound a little more, but like there is the question of defensive positioning. Cam Smith is going to play mainly third base while he's still in big league camp. The Astros have a third baseman in Isaac Paredes that they're not moving anywhere. Cam Smith's place to impact this team is probably in a corner outfield spot, probably right field. And they're not going to play him there really until he gets to the minor leagues. So there's not really a place for him on this configuration of the roster. But look, if he hits, they will find a place for him.
Yeah. And I think too, we're starting to see a shift a little bit in how players progress through the minor leagues, just because, college baseball is significantly better than it was 5-10 years ago because, they've lowered, or, they've reduced the size of the minor leagues. There's not as many teams. And now with NIL, you might as well go make $50,000 playing at an SEC school rather than riding a bus for 12 hours every 3 days in low A, right? And so, I've been watching every A&M baseball game this year. It looks like AA. It's not like they're playing, backfield somewhere. So I do think that it's possible that Cam Smith can come up and that he could be, relatively ready for the stuff that he's going to see in the big leagues. Because again, a lot of those guys were pitching in the College World Series a couple of years ago. I mean, I assume face Paul Skeens at some point, or you know what I mean. Like you're seeing the like top level talent guys, and so I do think that it's possible that he could come up and make an impact this year.
Aggies are looking like they're missing Jim Schlossnagle.
Hey, our second best player, Graham Grahovac, tore his shoulder in the first game, and then tried to play through it, and then is out now. So they're struggling a bit, but they'll be fine.
And to your point, I mean, I'll bring my school into this too. Like, you can make more money going to Texas A&M or going at this point, at this day and age, you can make more money going to Texas A&M or LSU and playing college ball and being treated like royalty than you would as a 5th round pick going on a bus to Davenport, Iowa.
I think it's outside of the first round. If you're a high schooler, I think I would play college baseball, because you're just, unless you're a first round talent, you're not going to make it to the big leagues in those 3 years anyway. So you might as well go to a big D1 school. You know, if you're good, you're going to get the same looks or even better looks there than you would somewhere else. And it's way more fun. Yeah. I mean, it makes a ton of sense for people. That's why I'm saying that the level of competition in college baseball is significantly better than it was 5-10 years ago.
And one more point on Cam Smith. Remember everything that had to happen last year for Jake Bloss to come up. Like, the Astros lost half their rotation. They had elbows falling apart left and right. They had guys going on the IL. Like, he was their last line of defense for them to call him up straight from AA to make a start in the big leagues. Like, a lot of stuff had to happen. So, I mean, he would have to go unless one of the corner outfielders, be it Chas McCormick, Jake Myers in center, Ben Gamble, whomever, unless they just completely fall apart at the major league level, like, a lot of things would have to go really wrong for Cam Smith to make this roster, to come up at some point this year, or he would have to go and have a Yordan Alvarez, Kyle Tucker, Alex Bregman type of run in the minor leagues and force the Astros to call him up, to find a place for him to play on their major league roster.
I picked that one. If we get to choose, I'd rather that one happen.
I think the Astros would agree with you. It would be a great problem for them to have Cam Smith lighting it up in AA. And look, I think, and this is something not a lot of people talk about either, AA is the true test. Like, we're at a point now where AAA, you know, look, there are good players in AAA, but a lot of evaluators, a lot of scouts, they look at what a guy does in AA a lot more than what they do in AAA, especially when you start to look at the Astros, who play in the PCL, the Pacific Coast League, their AAA team. That is a notoriously hitter-friendly league. Like, you get the ball up in a lot of places in the PCL, it's going to go out. Like, a lot of inflated stats happen down there. The Astros have seen it with some of their prospects that have come up to the big leagues. So let's watch what Cam Smith does in AA, and then we can maybe have this conversation.
Then he's out of there. So I agree. He'll be up by May. Chandler and I both stamp it.
Let's do it. We'll be back with another question right after a message from our friends at Foul Territory.
This year, there's nothing holding you back from loving your hair again. Let Nutrafol target the key root causes of your thinning hair and help you grow stronger, healthier strands from within.
Nutrafol is the #1 dermatologist-recommended hair growth supplement brand, trusted by over 1.5 million people. See thicker, stronger, faster-growing hair with less shedding in just 3 to 6 months with Nutrafol.
Building a hair growth routine is simple. Purchase online, no prescriptions required. Automated deliveries and free shipping keep you on track. Plus, with a Nutrafol subscription, you can save up to 20%.
Start your hair growth journey with Nutrafol for a limited time. Nutrafol is offering our listeners $10 off your first month subscription and free shipping when you go to Nutrafol.com and enter the promo code FOUL. Find out why over 4,500 healthcare professionals and stylists recommend Nutrafol for healthier hair. Nutrafol.com, spelled Nutrafol.com, promo code FOUL. That's Nutrafol.com, promo code FOUL.
All right, let's get to another question from our lovely listening audience, and it's one that I am tired of getting. It's one I'm tired of talking about. So naturally,
are you single?
Oh God, shut up. So naturally, we're going to talk about it. not talk about that. We're not going to talk about the question you asked. We're going to talk about the question that Brian asked on X. What percentage would you put on Arenado being an Astro? Here we go again. I would say 25%, and that feels high to me. Look, I don't think this is going to happen. He has already turned the Astros down once. We discussed on the last podcast that their second quote unquote overture was very brief, was not very long, and they kind of went on their way. I think a couple things about this Arenado thing need to be said that I don't think a lot of people are taking into account. He did not demand a trade. This is not a disgruntled player that asked to be traded. This is not J.J. Watt asking Cal McNair and his wife to release him from the Texans when they were a disaster. This is not James Harden forcing his way out of Houston. This is a player who the Cardinals approached him, and they approached all their other veterans making a ton of money. And they said, look, we're taking a step back. We're going to focus on player development. We want to get the young guys in. We'd love to have you here, but if you don't want to participate in that, let us know and we'll try to explore a trade for you. Nolan Arenado said he would love to stay with the Cardinals, but if they found a trade that they liked, that he would be willing to go. So this is not a situation where the Cardinals are desperately trying to move a disgruntled player, which gives Arenado a lot more authority. I mean, he already has a ton of authority. He has a no trade clause, but he is in a place that he's pretty happy. Like he doesn't dislike St. Louis. He doesn't dislike his teammates. Like I think I know from reporting and from talking to people that know him, like he'd be perfectly fine if he's on the Cardinals on opening day and maybe they re-explore things at the deadline, things like that. But I think first of all, that needs to be understood that this is not a player. This is not a mad player that the Cardinals are going to trade no matter what. This is a pretty really delicate situation. And Tyler, we know that the Astros were on his list of 5 teams that he would approve a trade to, and then he didn't approve one of them. So at this point, like you never say never on anything. And certainly if there's an injury in Astros camp or something and it forces their hand, they could circle back, which is the only reason why I would put it any higher, but I'd say 25%, and I don't even feel it's that high.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, once it got rejected the first time, it's just kind of like, okay, I guess that's the end. Because again, the deal was agreed to between the Cardinals and the Astros. So the reason it didn't go through was Arenado didn't waive his no trade clause for whatever reason it is. Not necessarily that he doesn't want to play for the Astros. He may have just said no, which is fine, but there's not going to be more momentum to need that to happen. And if I'm Arenado, yeah, I'll just wait and see what the trade deadline looks like, because you may have somebody, get injured on a playoff team or something, and he can come in and do that. So, I mean, it doesn't hurt him to be on the Cardinals, and I don't think we'll see any reason for him to waive his no trade clause.
Did you see the quote unquote news out of Florida today with Arenado?
What was that?
He made the 3.5 hour journey to Tampa to play in a spring training game against the New York Yankees, who are also on his list of 5 teams that he would approve a trade to. I'm going to tell you that it is not normal for a veteran with that much service time, someone that acclaimed, to volunteer to go on a 3.5 hour trip in spring training to play in a spring training game. I read between the lines a little bit on that one. And let's also,
but I mean, if you get a chance to play the Yankees in Tampa Bay in February, you got to take it.
I mean, maybe is SeaWorld around Tampa? Is there a SeaWorld?
Probably. There's an ocean.
Oh, maybe Nolan wanted to go to SeaWorld or whatever Tampa's night. Maybe he wanted to go to Burns Steakhouse. You ever heard of Burns Steakhouse in Tampa?
I think Josh told us about it. I think you
It's-
guys went off talking about how great it was.
It's a scene, man. And maybe
I haven't
Nolan,
made it out to Tampa a lot, just casually in my non-baseball life.
it's an underrated city. I like it. I like St. Pete. I like Tampa. We will be there. The Astros will be there this year to play the Rays in a different environment. But that kind of underscores, like, look, And you also remember who's on the Yankees now, Paul Goldschmidt, who played with Arenado in St. Louis for a very long time. They're very close. I read between the
grow a
lines.
beard now.
He can grow a beard now, and Arenado's he's got some facial hair going. It'd be a seamless transition, really. But I think if you read between the lines on that one, I think you understand where he would like to go. Whether the Yankees have interest in that is another matter entirely. Whether they want to play DJ LeMahieu at third base all year is also a perplexing matter that I don't think would be advantageous for them, but the Astros would take it if they play DJ LeMahieu 150 times at third base. Let's go to our next question. See what we got here from.
Shout out to the at least 4 different people whose question was, Tyler, can you ask Chandler to unblock me on Twitter?
I took everyone under serious consideration. And my verdict will be rendered by the beginning of the season.
I will say you guys can join me in the esteemed company of being blocked by an Astros beat reporter on Twitter. So you're fine.
Man, you're bringing out the big guns today. Let's talk about Benjamin Williams's question, and it's kind of a 2-pronged question. First of all, what is the likelihood of Framber returning in 2026? And then he goes on to say, all of McCullers, Garcia, France, and Javier will ultimately heal, complemented by hungry prospects in Bluebaugh, Gusto, Pecco, and it leaves little room. How does the rotation/bullpen adjust for these returning vets once everyone is fully healthy?
I like that question too. That's a good problem
that's
right
lot.
there.
That's a lot. I've got a couple real quick things for you. I'm here to tell you, and I don't mean this to sound mean, they are not staying healthy all year.
No.
It never happens. No major league team has really ever seen a rotation that stays completely intact and healthy for 162 games. The closest I ever saw were the 2018 Astros, who their 5-man rotation did not miss a turn until, I believe, August at Dodger Stadium when Lance McCullers Jr. blew out his elbow and he didn't make his next start. So they had 5 guys stay on turn in the rotation until August. That is unheard of. The Mariners last year had a similar thing, but Brian Wu had 2 IL stints last year. They had to call up Emerson Hancock for a couple starts. So just put that in your head now.
And half the guys he mentioned are coming from injury too, which makes them significantly more likely to be injured.
Right. I would personally be floored if Christian Javier or JP France pitches meaningful innings for this team in 2025. Just given how the Astros rehabbing system has gone the last couple of years. They've been rife with setbacks. They have not done a good job of getting their pitchers back in a timely fashion. Now, every body is different. Every body is different. Every arm is different. Every rehab is different. And there's no one way to do this. And they have to treat all these guys carefully. I mean, especially Christian Javier, who they have a lot of money invested in for a lot of years coming up. So, I mean, I think they hope that both of those guys can pitch after the All-Star break, but we heard the same thing last year about Luis Garcia. We heard the same thing last year about Lance McCullers. We heard the same thing about Javier and Urquidy when they initially got hurt. I'm here to tell you that it would take a completely perfect set of events for this entire thing to stay healthy. So as far as how the bullpen and the rotation will adjust, it's going to kind of sort itself out, because if and when Lance McCullers comes back, it'll be pretty obvious. Someone will very likely have some soreness. Someone will not be pitching well. It will all kind of sort itself out when these guys are ready to come back. So that's one. Second is, he asked, what's the likelihood of Framber Valdez coming back in 2026? I would say that's lower than the possibility that Nolan Arenado comes to the Astros. I'd put it at 10%. And
yeah, he's not going to be here. Everybody enjoy Framber. He's great to watch. This is your last year watching him in an Astros uniform.
If you guys haven't learned by now, like watching how the Astros operate, watching how they operate with all of their free agent to-bes and everything like that, like, I'm not sure what else to tell you. Like, you've got to take this team's actions better than its words. And look, mark my words, presuming they don't trade him at the deadline and presuming that they're in contention and they get to the end of the season, Dana Brown at some point next winter will say that Framber Valdez is our biggest priority. We want to re-sign Framber. We've got to get Framber back. Said the same thing about Bregman. James Click said the same thing about Correa. I don't even know who was running baseball ops when George Springer became a free agent, but whoever it was at that point probably said that he was their biggest priority. Their actions speak louder than words. This is a team that under Jim Crane has never guaranteed any pitcher more than $95 million. They have never guaranteed a starting pitcher more than $85 million. And Tyler, that $85 million is guaranteed to Lance McCullers. And I don't want to relitigate the Lance McCullers saga. I'm frankly tired of it, but seeing how that contract has aged, I think that's going to have a ton of influence when you start to discuss whether this is never mind too that Framber Valdez is going to make double that. He's going to make double.
Yeah,
that
he's going to get 7 years, $200 and something million. Yeah, it's way out of the Astros price range. It's not happening.
And let's also remember too that they fielded trade inquiries for Framber Valdez. They fielded them last year. They talked about him this year too. They held on to him both years, but just by the fact that they have done that, by the fact that they have been willing to listen, just underscores that they know they're not going to retain him. They know they're not going to pay him. The only way he's back in an Astros uniform next year is if, heaven forbid, he gets injured this year or just has a complete fall on his face type season that completely depresses his market, and maybe him and his representatives are open to like a shorter term 1 year with an opt out after the second year, get him back on the market next winter. That's the only way that I think there's a realistic chance that Framber Valdez is back with the Astros. Let's go to our next question. Do you like this, Tyler? Do you like this vibe?
Yeah.
Do you like this mailbag vibe? Is this fulfilling all of your
thank you.
Your childhood hopes and dreams about?
I like that they get to drive on the wrong side. They're in the passenger seat side because it's closer to the mailbox. And I always thought that was cool.
This question is from the appropriately named "You Don't Know" show, which pretty much sums up this show. Which, with the injuries to Trammell and Leone and Melton, how would you rank the outfield in spring training to make the roster? So as he alluded to, he does know that Pedro Leone has a grade 1 MCL strain. First of all, kudos to the Astros for saying grade 1 MCL strain out loud and not like lower body discomfort or like wrong body part discomfort. Props to them. Maybe they're turning over a new leaf. Taylor Trammell severely strained his calf while running the bases a couple of days ago. Jacob Melton reported to camp with some back soreness. He has progressed to baseball activities, but is not close to getting into games. So those three guys are not going to be playing in games for the foreseeable future. With them not in the fold, you look at the outfield now and you go left to right. You probably say Altuve in left field most of the time, Jake Myers in center, and Chas McCormick in right. With the dearth of left-handed hitting on this team, Ben Gamel to me has to be the next guy up. He's a left-handed hitter, can play both corner spots. They can put him in left field on days when Altuve is going to play second or do some different stuff. I think he's far and away kind of right under them as the next guy to make it. And I think the wild card here, Tyler, is Zach DeZenzo, who is having a really good spring to start. He's barreled some balls up. He looks great. They're playing him. They want intentionally to get him in corner outfield play in spring training to see how he looks out there after playing in Puerto Rico this winter. I think, Tyler, he's probably the guy that if he comes out and has a really good spring, like really forces their hand, he can be the guy that maybe sneaks into that last bench spot that rounds out the outfield. Yeah,
and I could also see them too, if it doesn't stay that same way, you would rather have a somebody who's just a veteran that can sit on the bench for 3-4 days at a time and continue to let DeZenzo get ABs every day in AAA if he's not quite ready to do that, because you don't want to bring him up and then him just not play but once a week, so it'll kind of depend on how those things shake out. But also, we mentioned all of those guys who are injured or whatever. That's why they signed 8 guys in that level of just 4th, 5th outfielder guy. Like, one of them's gonna work. That's all they need. They need one of the people that they have given contracts to be a 4th outfielder, and so it's gonna have to be one of them. So we're running out at this point of outfielders left, but it'll be one of them.
I think too, you mentioned you don't want to bring DeZenzo up and not play him. Joe Espada is on the record saying if he's going to carry a prospect, they need to play every day. And I know how they handled last year runs completely counter to that. I get Joey Loperfido came up 2 or 3 times last year and barely played. I get they called DeZenzo up last year at the end of the year and it was the same thing. Pedro Leon, the same thing. This year, though, there's a lot more flexibility in what they can do because they don't have entrenched guys everywhere. I mean, you're going to have a different second baseman maybe every night. If Chas McCormick doesn't get off to a great start, you could have a different right fielder every night. If just by virtue of Jose Altuve being out there, he ain't gonna play 162 in left field. You're gonna have a different left fielder every night. So there's a lot more room for Joe Espada to maneuver his bench, to maneuver his lineups, to make sure that if they do carry Zach DeZenzo, that he can get close to everyday at bats. And I think so as we're talking about this, Tyler, and no one asked this, but the one thing that it is kind of showing, that it's kind of demonstrating, does John Singleton have a place on this roster?
I don't know. I hope so. It's fun that he's been there forever. And I mean, you reported that he's just jacked now. So yeah, I hope so, but it's not going to be easy.
I mean, because you could conceivably see because look, Victor Caratini's on the bench. One of Gamble or DeZenzo is going to be on the bench. Caratini's a switch hitter. Whomever they decide to play with Dubon at second base, be that Guillorme, be it Brendan Rodgers, they're going to be on the bench. And then there's one spot open, and you ask yourself, if Zach DeZenzo has a huge camp, do they carry him over John Singleton, or is it one of these situations where John Singleton's left-handed? He is, as you just said, more apt and more accustomed to coming off the bench, not taking an at bat in a day or two, and then coming into a big situation to face a leverage reliever. Swings at strikes, doesn't swing at balls, can hit balls 600 feet when he connects with them. Do you think, this could come down to, do you bring Zach DeZenzo and his right-handed bat for that potential, or do you want the left-handed, maybe more of a sure thing in John Singleton when you know what he can do off the bench?
I think if you're starting the year, you're just going to, unless it's just outrageous, one outperforms the other. I think you're going to have Singleton start the year because you can't do anything with him other than that. You'd have to let him go. And so you might as well force DeZenzo to force his way onto the roster, or get some clarity of your major league roster, and then maybe there's a spot open somewhere else that you weren't expecting. But I mean, like I said, DeZenzo would have to massively outplay everybody really to force them to give up on Singleton, I would think.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Like DeZenzo would have to, there would have to be an injury, or DeZenzo would really have to have a Joey Loperfido type spring. And look, Joey Loperfido had a Joey Loperfido spring last year and didn't make the roster. So he could even do all that and it still may not matter. So, and look, they may also want to they may send Zach DeZenzo to AAA and say, for the first month of the season, you're doing nothing but playing the corner outfields. And then we'll see where the roster's at after the first 30 games of the year. And if you can help, you're coming up. So,
yeah, there's no need to, when you have the flexibility to put somebody in AAA, like it's the first month of the season, that's the point, is to kind of figure it out, like whatever roster decision they make is not going to swing the season one way or the other. So you might as well take the more flexible option.
I had a very wise member of the Astros organization on the backfields in spring training a couple days ago tell me, what we carry on opening day does not mean, that's going to be any use. He pointed out an example. I don't have the exact number in front of me, but he goes, we won the World Series in 2022 with Nico Goodrum leading off a respectable number of games. So there you go. I mean, it doesn't matter what you carry on March 27th. It matters sort of what you carry on September 27th.
I didn't know Orbit could talk. Why was he telling you that?
I mean, he's the only person that really talks to me anyway. Like, I mean, he's not the number one mascot in Houston for no reason.
Mm-hmm.
Let's do one more question, and then we'll get out of here. Your mail route is ending very soon.
Mm-hmm.
So final question is from D. Berkowitz. They ask, I know it's early, but which Astros would be your picks, one batter, one pitcher, to be most improved and or biggest surprises performance and production-wise this season? This is commonly referred to in baseball circles as the pick to click. Tyler, do you want to do pitcher? Let's split these. Do you want to do pitcher or hitter?
I mean, I have a pitcher for sure.
Okay. All right, I'll do a hitter.
Okay.
I'm not going to steal Joe Espada's thunder because Joe Espada came on this pod last month and said Jeremy Pena was his pick to click. So we'll let Joe have his glory if Jeremy Pena does actually click. I'm gonna go with Zach DeZenzo, honestly. Like, I think just watching him and the way he has approached spring training, everything he has said, everything, he looks to me like he's on the cusp. And again, I could be falling in love with watching BP on the backfields. I could be falling in love with a guy that came in the quote unquote best shape of his life, because Zach DeZenzo, if I'm bringing a team on the road, he's a bus guy. He's a guy that you want second or third coming off the bus. Like, you want Jeremy Pena, you want John Singleton, and you want Zach DeZenzo walking off the bus. Those are the three guys you want walking up. He is a unit. He is very well put together. He looks like he can handle both corner outfield spots. And in his time in the big leagues last year, like, I know the numbers aren't great, but the at-bats were good. Like, he did not look overmatched. This was not a guy that came up and you could tell, like, they called him up too early, like he was out of place. Like, he fit in. The at-bats looked okay despite the numbers. The swing decisions were improving. I think there is certainly an avenue, as we've discussed, on this team for him to get regular at-bats. So I think I think ultimately he does begin the season in AAA. But I think if he can force their hand and get up here by May, he's the kind of guy that I think can maybe be a guy that really no one's talking about that can be their pick to click.
DeZenzo and Cam Smith are going to be all-time bus guys together, getting off minor league buses for sure. Those are both.
Cam Smith should be playing like outside linebacker for the Texans.
Yeah,
that dude was massive.
Okay, someone must have said something. I was off Twitter for an hour, and then I kept seeing Cam Smith's face on aircraft carriers. Where did that come from?
Dana Brown referred to him as an aircraft carrier. I can't decide if it was because of like his body shape or if it was because like he can carry a franchise.
Or he launches rockets.
Perhaps. I think it's somewhere all three of those things. But yeah, if he becomes a thing, which I think he will, aircraft carrier is going to be associated with Cam Smith for however long he's an Astro.
Okay, so he's definitely going to Corpus Christi then, next to the Lexington.
Yes.
Okay.
He might not stay there. He may not stay there long, but he'll be there.
But we will have a photo shoot of Cam Smith on an aircraft carrier. Mine is one that we've been talking about throughout the year, but I think Forrest Whitley comes in and locks down the seventh inning role for this team. He's looked really good, honestly, since last year. I mean, he was great in AAA last year. I think he's finally healthy. You know, we've talked to a few guys who have seen him a bunch, you know, in the off season in Houston and have just heard nothing but great things. And he's going to get chances because there's no options left, so he's going to come up and they're going to pitch him every other day for a month or two, unless he's just awful because they have to, like you're not going to be able to shuttle him back and forth. And I think it finally clicks for him this year, and he's a really important piece of the bullpen for the Astros.
I 100. He would have been my pitcher if I drew that stick to pick the pitcher. But I mean, look, the question has never been the stuff. Like he's thrown 100 for many years now. Like the stuff has always been filthy. It's been more about, can he stay healthy? It's been more, to be quite frank, what's between the ears, like mentally, some stuff with him. But he is as clear-headed and as lucid and as just prepared for this opportunity, I think, as I've ever seen him in the 7-8 years I've been around him. And I mean, he's not dumb. Like I think he actually told Julia on the broadcast a couple of days ago, like, yeah, I know I'm out of options. I know this is it. Like he understands what's at stake here. And again, like I said, the stuff has never been in question. So I think, last year was valuable for him just to transition to becoming a reliever. I think one of the things about him that the Astros, I think, are going to look to exploit a little bit is he's still got enough pitches to like get through a lineup more than once. Like, I'm not saying they're going to stretch him out to be a starter, but Joe Espada's said that they want to see if he can get them more than 3 outs. And I believe he only had 4 appearances in AAA last year where he got more than 3 outs. So seeing maybe if he can give them multiple innings to be not necessarily a long guy, but like, especially early in the year, relievers that can go multiple innings are a godsend, because aside from Framber, like, none of these starters are going to be really built up to go 7 innings, 100 pitches, if they even go that anymore in today's game. So having a reliever that can go multiple innings and get through a lineup with a couple of, Forrest throws 5 pitches. I mean, this is not a 2-pitch reliever that's going to come in here and get solved after 5 hitters. Like, he's still got the starting repertoire, and they're going to try to get 5 to 7 outs out of him. And that's going to increase his value even more, because the more innings you can eat, that's the less that you have to get Abreu up, that you have to get Hader up, that you have to get Taylor Scott, who, they ran him into the ground last year. Like, you can avoid that if you've got guys that can get you multiple outs or multiple innings, and they want Forrest Whitley to be that guy. Yeah.
Remember the year McHugh went to the bullpen and just destroyed everyone over 2 1/3 innings every couple of days? I think that's absolutely something that Whitley can do.
I think staff ace Brad Peacock did that once upon a time.
Of course he did. I mean, he could do anything.
I had to give Brad Peacock a mention.
We always will.
We always will. Before we get out of here, I had to give Brad Peacock his due. Did you know Brad Peacock and Cam Smith went to the same high school?
I did. That was my favorite fact in learning about Cam Smith. I was very excited about that.
So we brought this is good podcasting. We brought this pod full circle. We started talking about Cam Smith, and then we ended talking about Cam Smith, who is probably going to be the talk of Astros spring training from here on out. He's going to start, I believe, on Thursday at third base. I'm sure there will be lots of freaking out if he hits a double in his first at bat.
He's really good.
I know.
He's really good at baseball. You can tell already. I mean, I don't know what he'll be career-wise, but you can just tell, oh, that guy's a really good baseball player.
And look, I want to be clear. I'm not trying to dismiss what Cam Smith is doing. Again, he's got 134 professional plate appearances. The fact that he is doing this in big league spring training games is absurd.
It's crazy. He's really good.
It shows how good he is. But let's like you would if guys struggle in Grapefruit League play, let's temper some expectations. Let's remember that, when the guys he's facing a lot of times in these games are either working on stuff or maybe not pitching him like they'd pitch him in an actual game. So let's
Keely's brother.
Yeah. Keely, your brother, I'm sure your brother will have much better days. I hope he does. But look, let's be rational. Let's be calm. That's certainly a thing to tell Astros fans. Being rational and calm is their middle name, as we well know, and we thank them for their submissions for this mailbag episode. I like this, Tyler. We need to do this more often.
Yeah,
we definitely will do this more often, and we'll get more insight from you guys, more feedback, listen to what you guys want to talk about. So we will be back next week, presuming I survive Mardi Gras. We will be back next week with another couple episodes of Crush City Territory, going off of what's going on in West Palm Beach and getting you ready for the Astros in the regular season. But for this episode, I'm Chandler Rome with Tyler Stafford. Thank you, guys.
Bye.